So just the groundwork, what is accessibility? Like I said, it's about making your online assets accessible and usable by all types of people. Um, and the common people thing people talk about is what's called Section 508. So that was added to a federal act called the Rehabilitation Act, and it was added and updated also in 1998 to say we need to make technology accessible to disabled. And if you want to get into the nitty gritty of the government side of it, you can go to section508.gov and look at that. Um, and also, there's been even some newer things coming out of the government where the Department of Justice has said, well, we're kind of considered websites now publicly important spaces, and so that kind of makes pretty much all the online world fall under these rules and regulations. So it's pretty important to think about this, and of course, the closer you're tied to government, the more you should probably care about this. But it's really important for all websites to consider accessibility, and they're the major components of accessibility we're going to be talking about is kind of what these rules are that the government's come up with, how design is impacted, how design impacts your accessibility, and the structure of your online code and assets, and how the function of how your online websites and other apps kind of function, how that impacts accessibility. So we're going to kind of covering those major things. Um, and when we're talking about accessibility and the different ways you have to build your online things to work, we're really talking about accommodating for these alternative systems that people may use. So there are very specific devices. For instance, in this picture, there's a device that converts text to Braille, and that's an example. And also, pretty much all the smartphones and systems out there, browsers, smartphones, operating systems have some baked in features. It's very, very common. We see people who may have a vision issue or can't see at all or other issues take advantage of what's built into the iPhone or an Android phone that's quite popular. And then there are also specialized software that people may put on either a computer or a mobile device. And all of this software and all of this hardware needs to have special code as part of your site for them to work optimally. And if you kind of completely just ignore accessibility at all or have an older website that isn't up to standards, many of these software devices will have a really hard time using your site. And there's a lot of benefits, even just beyond accommodating for these devices or these software programs. Very, very accessible websites tend to also actually be just very highly usable, because accessibility is about making things usable, making sure uh, things have enough contrast and things have the correct structure to be very usable by, say, people with poor vision or people using these other devices. So when you increase the accessibility, you're actually really increasing the usability for a lot of other people too, who you may not consider disabled, people who just have poor screens or poor, eyesight. And also it helps with mobile issues and even kind of SEO. All of these issues that you should care about kind of go hand in hand actually with accessibility. So, why should you care so much about this? We're kind of putting a lot of emphasis on this thing. It will help you reach the widest audience possible online. There is actually a very large audience online. Just vision impairment alone in the US is millions and millions of people. And worldwide, you're talking about tens and tens of millions of people that may not be able to use your website if you don't have accessibility features. And of course, your funding could be contingent and it could be at risk, if you receive money from different government entities where it's federal or local. They can kind of have in those agreements, your website has to be accessible. And there is quite a bit of case law piling up in the court systems where people have brought cases against certain entities because, like I said, now the Department of Justice is sort of considering the web a space of public accommodation. So if you could kind of Google that and look at that, you can learn more about about what that means, a space of public accommodation?